Hello, everybody. Welcome to my new podcast, Talking Heat. I am Brock Farrell, your host, and I am creating this podcast in order to give my opinions on a lot of different things. It's going to be mostly video game content related. I like to talk about like Yu-Gi-Oh, esports competitively, things like that. So the whole podcast is just going to be that. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, you're probably not going to be into it. But without further ado, you don't really care who I am. I'm not going to explain my story. I'm just going to start with why I'm making this first episode. And that would be because E3 is on the way. And I love E3. Every year, it's so exciting. It's like watching a really dramatic video game TV show that's real, though. The best parts of E3, in my opinion, is when they announce that game, where it's been like 10 years or something since the last one came out, whatever it may be, that's real hype, the Half-Life 3, that'll never happen, it seems, I'd like to get started by talking about just what games I'm looking forward to at E3 this year, and if you're not, some of these games will definitely be aware of, but if you're not aware of some of these, hopefully that it'll introduce you to some new games that you haven't tried before or maybe even heard about, although most of them you will probably have heard about, or maybe you've forgotten them. There's one on this list in particular I really want to get to. So without further ado, let's get started with, in no particular order, okay, 10 games. Let's start with 10 games that I want to see at E3 this year, or that I'm looking forward to the most. Now, there's a lot of games at E3 every year, so I just want to clarify that a lot of these, were off the top of my head, so I might leave a couple out that I could mention later, but there's just so many games that come out every year at E3, so here we go, 10, starting off with Spider-Man for the PS4. When they announced this game last year, I was mostly stoked for, two reasons. One, it is a Spider-Man game, and I used to really love playing like Spider-Man 2 and stuff on the I used to have it on the GameCube, even though they're not like the greatest games. Just Spider-Man's a great character for like that web slinging around and just kind of flowing through the city and stuff. It's just really fun and nice to watch that, and it just feels good, I guess, playing games like that. That would be number one. But the other part that made me super excited was that Insomniac's making it, and Insomniac it's such a top-notch company. They had Ratchet and Clank recently. What was the other one they had? I can't remember. They had Sunset Overdrive, which was on the Xbox One. I actually bought the Sunset Overdrive Xbox One, and I love that game. I thought it was very good, even a little underrated despite all the press it was getting before it came out. So I'm hoping that Spider-Man really makes hopefully it has good like battle mechanics. I know like some the old Spider-Man games, the fighting was a little awkward and clunky at times, and sometimes you'd go flying all over the place. IGN just released a video that was showcasing that it seems that we're gonna get some more gameplay at E3, which is what the video was talking about. And they showed a little bit more footage that I personally hadn't seen. I'm not sure when that footage was revealed specifically. It looked very nice. It looked very good. So I'm hoping to see that, and I'm hoping to be wowed by that. So next, let's move on with the list. We got Shenmue 3, which we already know that one's coming as well. At least it had that Kickstarter, which was very successful. I also, this part is kind of Shenmue 3 / other Sega games. And by that I mean, it was recently that Sega had said they wanted to bring back a lot of their old franchises. So really it wouldn't matter to me which one it is, because I like a lot of them, like Space Channel 5, bring back one of those. Jet Set Radio, I would love a new one of those. We already have new Sonic games all the time, obviously, and it's not like we're going to get an Adventure 3 anytime soon, so I'm really hoping to see more of that stuff at E3. Sega had said they wanted to start reviving games and have that kind of go into, I think they said 2020? You know, so there's probably going to be more than one revival. Hell, I even like games like Sega Bass Fishing or Bring House of the Dead back. That would be awesome. So I think those are really good choices. But Shenmue 3, we might see it, we might not. It's hard to say. As for the other games, that's kind of a bold like choice, you know, like those ones I'm not expecting to see. But it would be really nice if they just, oh god, if they release like a Jet Set Radio trailer. Like, I feel like people would flip their shit. That would be awesome. So next on the list, Crackdown 3. Crackdown 3 was announced quite a while ago by now. I think, oh gosh, I mean, it's been about 3-4 years maybe. And that was announced at E3, and that was supposed to be, you know, around the launch year at least, maybe not the launch date, but the launch year of the Xbox One, and they delayed it for a pretty long time for whatever reason. It was even rumored for a little bit to be canceled, but I think most people agree it's not canceled, and I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft pulls it out this year. I'm not like a huge fan of Crackdowns 1 and 2, especially not 2. Actually, I really didn't even care for 2, but I do feel like the Xbox One, and not just the Xbox One, but since that's what I'm personally playing currently, the Xbox One could use some more co-op games, so I'm hoping that Crackdown 3 is like a really good revitalization with a lot more co-op elements, and, you know, hopefully they're meaningful co-op elements. It's not just there to be there. That's kind of how I felt with Crackdown 2, that it was just kind of a meaningless co-op. There wasn't a lot. It just didn't feel like progress was being made. It was kind of like this big city that felt like there was nothing to do but run around and jump and kill some monsters, which, if that's your thing, you probably liked Crackdown 2. For me, I guess I expected a little bit more. So for the next game, Bloodborne 2. Now, Bloodborne, many people like it. The first one, even more. Some say it's the best in the whole series. While it's personally not my favorite, I have trouble deciding my favorite between all the Souls games, but I think the gameplay in Bloodborne 1 is really good. I think I really like the gameplay. I honestly just don't really like the style and the stories and the lore as much as I do with Dark Souls. I always thought Dark Souls had that down a little bit better, but that's just me. It's so hard for everybody to decide. They're like, oh, I kind of like, you know, I like this one more. They're all so similar, you know. Right now, we have these rumors of Bloodborne 2 coming to E3, and I would totally be all in favor of that. Like I said, I don't dislike Bloodborne. I don't even hate it. I love Bloodborne. I love all of those From Software Souls-style games. I've been playing them since Demon Souls, even on the PS3. I used to go to my friend's house to play that one all the time. I'm hoping to see Bloodborne. I'm hoping it gets a big reaction, because it seems to me that we're not going to be getting Dark Souls 4, obviously, in the near future, or if ever at all. That's all I have to really say about Bloodborne. God of War 4? God of War? Whatever you want to call it. I don't know why they didn't just call it 4. It seems like it's kind of a continuation. I haven't really looked into this one either since the last, was that announced last year? I believe, yeah, last year. But I think it looks really good from what we've seen so far. So I'm looking forward to that one. I don't have much to say about it other than I'm sure that'll get like a pretty, you know, big reaction. God of War's like PlayStation's, or at least it was for a while, like their number one franchise. It was the Master Chief of Sony, you know. And I think that the demo they showed last year looked really good, looked really nice. I like the new Nordic style theme, although I will miss the old like Greek god, you know, theme. Like that was cool too. But yeah, God of War, I'm sure that'll be there. I don't know why it wouldn't, because that one, well, we don't have a release date. I would imagine that it can't be that much longer for that one. Next one is actually not a game itself, but Lego Dimensions Year 3, because last year, I didn't even think of it, but I play Lego Dimensions all the time, or at least, well, it's been a while now, but every time they announce some new stuff, I usually like buy one or two of the packs or whatever, and I usually end up playing them with my girlfriend or whatever. She really likes Lego Dimensions, and I didn't even think about it last year that you know, Lego Dimensions would be at E3, and then they announced all the Year 2 stuff with Sonic, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think of that. Lego Dimensions, yeah, I guess they would be at E3. So I'm hoping that this year they have some other like big announcements for Lego Dimensions, maybe some like more video game characters, I would be down for that. Because last year we got Sonic, which was huge for me because I love Sonic. But like if we could get like, I don't know, maybe if they were even like, oh, here's the Nintendo like exclusive, Mario version, or hell, even like something as silly as like, oh, here's Master Chief for Lego Dimensions. It sounds silly, but it would kind of fit in really well, So Lego Dimensions Year 3 is another quote-unquote game that I'm looking forward to. Next is Red Dead Redemption 2, or whatever they're going to call this, because it's probably not going to be called Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't know. It might be. I really like the first Red Dead Redemption, or I guess it's the second. There's Red Dead Revolver, and then Red Dead Redemption. I actually liked it more than the Grand Theft Auto games that were coming out at that time. If you were to ask me, like, what my favorite of all those, of the Rockstar games was, it would probably be a toss-up between Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. But if we're talking like that new engine, like the Grand Theft Auto 4 and then onward, it's I think Red Dead Redemption was my favorite out of all of those, like GTA 5. And although GTA 5's online is very fun, so excluding the online, if we're just talking single player, because actually Red Dead Redemption had a pretty fun online too, now that I think about it. And that's another game that I'm not hugely looking forward to, but what I am looking forward to is the reaction it gets. I just love the reaction that some of these big titles get, even if I don't like the game. Like, I'd never played Kingdom Hearts before. When Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced, like, I got excited, and I've never even played one because I was just like, oh, this is awesome. Whenever gaming makes news in any way, I'm happy. It doesn't matter to me really what it is. The next game that I have written down here is Mario Odyssey. I would imagine we got to see something else from that. It is supposed to come out this year, so if Nintendo didn't show anything at E3, they would have to show something really soon, I would imagine. I guess they don't always have to. Like the Switch, they waited until it was like coming out like 1 or 2 months before, which I thought was crazy, but it was super successful, so whatever, I mean, maybe we won't get anything, but I would imagine Nintendo's got to do something at their crappy little treehouse thing, and I think Mario Odyssey looks fantastic. Like I was a huge fan of Breath of the Wild, but I really like platformers. I'm really looking forward to that. We've already got like Sonic coming out with 2 looks pretty promising games this year, and then there's the Crash games returning, which I'm not like a huge fan of, but Crash is all right. I just love platformers, so Mario Odyssey, when they showed that little trailer or whatever they showed earlier this year, I thought, oh man, this is going to be like my platforming game of the year. My last favorite, well, I guess I really like all the 3D Mario platformers. There's not a lot of the 2D Mario platformers that I thought got kind of old. I got tired of those, But in terms of the 3D ones, like Galaxy 2, I love Super Mario Sunshine. Those are some of my favorite games of all time. 3D Land, didn't really get to play that one much, so I can't say on that one. It looked like it was kind of just the 2D style, but so I don't know about that one. It didn't interest me quite as much because they didn't change a whole lot, at least in theme. But I don't know what else to say about Super Mario Odyssey. I think the idea of putting it in like that real world, if that's really what they're going to do, was an interesting idea, and I'm totally looking forward to that. So the next game on my list, number 9 here, is Death Stranding. It seems like anything that Kojima touches is golden, or at least it'll be seen as golden in the eyes of fans. And when Death Stranding was announced, that was one of those games, once again, huge reaction, got me excited, but the difference here is that I really love like the Metal Gear games, at least the ones I've played. I haven't played all of them, but I think this game looks very promising, even though we haven't seen gameplay. It's just one of those things, like you see it and you're like, oh man, it's hard to argue with Kojima, and it looks so good. We haven't even seen gameplay, and I'm already like confident, like 100% confident this is going to be an amazing game. Now, they might not show much we might not get gameplay this year, because if I remember correctly, I believe Kojima said this is going to take a few years, and I'm not surprised by that. Regardless, I think that it would be good for him to show something, and I'm sure he will. He always seems to turn up, Kojima, just out of the fucking blue, whenever. So I think Death Stranding is going to be another big one to see at E3, and it's one that I'm obviously looking forward to because it's on my list. Okay, and then last for the games that I'm looking forward to are Metroid Prime games. Now, this, if I'm just looking at my list here, is probably my number one thing that I want to see on this list, because some of these games I already know are coming out. Mario Odyssey, I already know it's coming, so I'm not in a rush to see gameplay necessarily. Red Dead, I'm not in a rush. Even Death Stranding, which we haven't seen gameplay of, not in a rush. Besides any surprise like Sega comebacks like Jet Set Radio or Space Channel 5, Metroid Prime is probably my number one thing I want to see that's on this list. I have another really short list. We'll get to that in a minute, and there's a game there that I want to see more than anything, but I don't know if it's going to happen. So just talking about these 10 that I just mentioned, with the rumors of 2 Metroid Prime games possibly being in the works, yeah, that's what I want to see the most. I've been waiting for a Metroid Prime 4 for a very long time, and I never even beat 3. I barely played 2. I just loved the first one. I do have the trilogy, so I do got to get through those sometimes, but regardless, like, I've just been waiting for a Nintendo IP that's not Zelda or Mario, and Star Fox was such a big fucking disappointment, and I love Star Fox, but so that was unfortunate. So Metroid, which being one of my favorite Nintendo IPs, probably, I don't know, second, third favorite maybe, that would redeem it for me. Besides, Breath of the Wild being outstanding, and Mario Odyssey obviously looking like it's going to be outstanding. But the ones that aren't Zelda or Mario related, Metroid is the only other one that I'm like, oh yeah. There's some other Nintendo games that I really want to come back, like F-Zero and stuff. But as far as my favorite goes, Metroid is, I feel they got to do something, especially with that big middle finger Federation Force. I mean, that was just ouch, So, okay, well, now that I'm done talking about the 10 games that I want to see the most at E3, I'm going to end this podcast by giving 3 bold predictions. 3 games that I'm not so sure are going to show up at E3 this year. In fact, I'm thinking it's more likely they won't than they will, but I really want to see. I would have put on my 10 of that I want to see, but these are the ones that I'm really kind of like, I don't think, I might be disappointed. Let's go with that. That's why I call them bold predictions. So without further ado on that, let's start with, this one's kind of a cheat, Halo 3 Anniversary / Halo 6. I'm a huge Halo fan. I follow the Halo competitive scene. I love all the competitive stuff. I love the Halo story. It never gets old to me. I know a lot of people, it's the same thing every game. Yes, it kind of, I get it. It's the same thing every game. Halo's not going to win any more Game of the Year awards. I don't really care if it's that innovative anymore. I just want to see new Halo games. Now, Halo 3 is my favorite Halo game of all of them. We've gotten some, I suppose, news lately from 343 and some people over there saying there's not going to be a Halo 3 Anniversary. They keep saying, oh, there's not going to be one. Now, the thing about that is that I never tend to trust certain developers, and 343 is one of those developers who's in the past been like, oh, it's not going to happen, and then it does. Halo 2 Anniversary, for example. I still don't think that Halo 3 Anniversary is going to happen this year, because it seemed like they kind of had something else planned. My best guess is that they're going to talk about that canceled, or not canceled, but that Halo TV show that they announced a few years back that didn't really hasn't gone anywhere since, which is a little disappointing. I don't want them to rush out Halo games. I'm glad that the time span between Halo 5 and Halo 6 is going to be a lot longer than Halo's 2, or Halo 4 and 5. So I am glad that they're, taking more time, especially since Halo 5 was a little disappointing, and, areas like the story and stuff was just bad. And the Master Chief Collection was a fucking disaster, but so I'm glad that they're taking more time on Halo 6, but if they were to give us like a trailer for Halo 6, or be like, hey, Halo 3 anniversary will happen, it's just not this year, you know, or whatever, I would be satisfied. I'd be totally satisfied. I just hope we have some kind of Halo news that's a little more, like, interesting than a TV series. Personally, that's not my kind of thing. I'd watch it if they made it, but it's not really something I'd get super hyped about. Like I said, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we're going to get a Halo 3 anniversary this year. I know that 343 has been said stuff like that before. They're like, oh, Halo 2 anniversary is not happening, and then it was like, did totally happen, and I actually called that was going to happen. This time they're saying, oh no, it's not happening, and I actually kind of think they're telling the truth, at least for now. I don't think it's going to come this year, which it wouldn't make sense to have a Halo anniversary, I guess, I guess they could, like on its 11th year or 12th year anniversary, but honestly, they'll probably wait for a more official sounding number, like 15th anniversary or whatever, you know? So that's one game. The next is Bayonetta 3. Now, Bayonetta 2 was released on the Wii U exclusively, and I love that game. I love the first one. I've been playing, well, I bought the first Bayonetta sometime around it came out on the 360, and I bought a Wii U just for Bayonetta 2. It wasn't even like Smash Bros. And stuff, although I would have bought a Wii U for Smash Bros. If Bayonetta 2 didn't come out. But Bayonetta 2 came first, and that's the reason I bought it right away, because I really wanted to play that game. Bayonetta 3, once again, I don't think it's going to get announced this year. In fact, if anything, I wouldn't be surprised. Here's one I wouldn't be surprised about. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Bayonetta 2 port for the Nintendo Switch. It seems like Nintendo's trying to take a lot of the Switch games, or the Wii U games, and put them on the Switch because the Wii U was kind of a financial failure. So they want to, you know, put those games on the Switch and hope they sell better and get the money that they want off of it, whatever. So Bayonetta 3, Hideki Kamiya has said that he wants to work on it and he has ideas for it. So I don't think it's not going to happen. I think it will happen eventually. But once again, I'm not so sure that it's going to get announced this year at E3. So, okay. So I'm ready for this one. My last game, or games, I don't know how you want to look at this, that I'm not so sure that it'll get announced this year. My final bold prediction, Spyro the Dragon. Now, I have been wanting a new Spyro game, and a legit one, not Skylanders. Skylanders is a good game. That's not what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. The classic PlayStation style Spyro games. I don't care if it's a remaster. I don't care if it's like a reboot, like they're doing like a remaster of Crash. I don't care if it's a totally new game. If they call it like Spyro 4. I just want to see Spyro. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of how long I've been waiting for this, I suppose. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go on the internet and I will just be like, I don't know, I'll think of something like Power Rangers. You know, is Power Rangers having anything new? You know, I haven't looked up Power Rangers in a while, so I'll type in Power Rangers 2017 new movie or something, and then like, hey, there's a new Power Rangers movie coming out. Or like one that I've been doing recently, because another game that I really want, Sonic Racing Transformed sequel. I'll be like, I'll go on the internet and I'll type in, is there a sequel to Sonic Racing Transform coming out 2017, whatever the year it is? See if there's any new news on it. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. So sometimes I'll do that. Now Spyro, I started doing that back in about, I want to say 2012. It has been a long time. And I remember, typing that in. I would do that, like I said, whenever I'd do my little news rounds on the internet, sometimes I'd type that in. I gave up after a while, but I've been doing it again recently. Now, I did it last year, and I found one article. It was one, and this was before the Crash Bandicoot remake was announced, or the reboot, whatever. Before that was even announced, and I found one article of somebody saying, hey, where's Spyro? I can't remember the article now. I would have to find it, honestly. It's not even really worth it. Now that the Crash thing was announced, just recently, I've finally been hearing some more things, like that we might possibly get a Spyro. Sony hasn't really said anything. There was apparently this article talking about how Sony might have hinted at a new Spyro game. I didn't read much into that, so I'll have to look at that. Spyro is the number one game for me that I really want to see make a comeback in any way. We got a form of a Ratchet and Clank comeback. Crash Bandicoot, for fuck's sake, is coming back. A God of War reboot. I mean, what else? Spyro feels so left out. All these Sony franchises seem to be like coming back, although God of War never really left. So some of them aren't coming back, but some of them are rebooting. So I know that Spyro is owned by Activision. I actually think that's unfortunate, really. And I know that he's been kind of, sort of, but not really anymore, the mascot for Skylanders. He was, at least. But now I feel like he can drift out on his own again, and they can make some more original Spyro games. If you haven't seen, there's this YouTuber, I don't know his name, I'll find the link and I'll put it in the description, who put the first Spyro game and some of the second, I think, even in the Unreal 4 engine. It looks fucking amazing, and it just makes me want a new Spyro game that much more. It is possible this might not be such a bold prediction, considering Sony's been bringing back all these games, and like I said, there's been like some more information, and a few more articles have popped up online recently talking about how there might be a new Spyro game is hinted at, and we might see it at E3. I hope that's the case. So it's my final bold prediction. But that's all I have to say. I'm looking really forward to E3. I'll probably make a new podcast around that time. So thank you, everybody, for watching. And let me know in the comments, like, what games are you looking forward to at E3? Do you miss Spyro as much as me? Because I know you're out there, people. I know there's people who miss Spyro just as much as me. But thank you, everybody, for watching, and I'll see you next time.